Admiral Torin Vex stared at the holographic battle map with eyes that hadn't known proper rest in over a decade. The once proud fleets of the United Species Alliance were scattered across the spiral arm, retreating from yet another failed offensive against the Void Collective. 42 years of war, and they were still losing. Casualties, Commander Lix, Vex asked, his four-fingered hand tightening around the command rail. The reptilian tactical officer's scales darkened with stress as she delivered the report. 17 capital ships lost, Admiral. The Tylorian colony on Presto's IV has gone dark. Estimated civilian casualties, 14 million. Vex's skin, normally a vibrant purple, had faded to a sickly lavender. His species, the Quarians, were empaths. Every death weighed on him like a physical burden. After 4 decades of this slaughter, the weight had become almost unbearable. "The Council is requesting your presence for an emergency session," his aide mentioned quietly. "Of course they are," Vex muttered. "They'll want to know why their grand strategy failed." Again. The grand strategy had always been the same: bring overwhelming force, advanced technology, and precise military doctrine against the Void Collective. And each time, the crystalline, hive-minded entities adapted, countered, and pushed back harder. The Alliance flagship Eternal Vigilance was an impressive vessel, 20 kilometers long, housing representatives from all 37 species of the Alliance. It was a testament to cooperation across biological, cultural, and technological differences. Yet even this marvel of engineering and diplomacy hadn't been enough. In the council chamber, representatives from the Alliance's most powerful species waited in tense silence. First, Speaker Zoltar, a gaseous entity contained in an ornate environmental suit, addressed Vex as he entered. "Admiral, our analysts predict total Alliance collapse within 14 months if current trends continue." Vex didn't dispute the assessment. "The Collective adapts too quickly. Our tactics are sound, our technology superior, but they learn from every engagement. Then we need something they cannot adapt to," said Representative Axelith, an insectoid mathematician from the Arxian cluster. "Something unpredictable." A junior communications officer burst into the chamber, a significant breach of protocol that drew immediate attention. "Apologies for the interruption," the officer said breathlessly, "but we've received a strange report from a collective scout ship." "What kind of report?" Vex asked. "It's fragmentary, sir. The scout ship was destroyed while investigating an unremarkable star system on the outer rim." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Collective scout ships were rarely defeated, even by Alliance battle groups. "Show us," Vex ordered. The holographic display activated, showing the final transmission from the collective scout. It had encountered a species on the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. The species had detected the scout ship's presence despite its advanced stealth technology, engaged it with surprisingly effective weaponry, and destroyed it completely. "What species is this?" First Speaker Zoltar demanded. The officer checked his data tablet. "They call themselves humans, First Speaker. They've only achieved rudimentary space travel within their own system. Their technology is primitive by our standards." "Then how did they defeat a collective scout?" Representative Axelith asked. "Unknown representative," the officer replied. "The scout's final transmission mentions unpredictable response patterns and illogical defensive maneuvers." Admiral Vex felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a flicker of hope. "Prepare my ship," he ordered. "Set course for this human world." "Admiral," Zoltar protested, "we need you coordinating our defensive line." "If these humans defeated a collective scout with primitive technology," Vex interrupted, "they have something we need, something we've lacked for 42 years. "And what might that be?" Axelith asked. Vex's lips formed a thin smile. "I don't know. And that's precisely the point." Dr. Maya Chen was enjoying her morning coffee when the world changed forever. "Dr. Chen," her assistant called, bursting into her office. You need to see this. The assistant's tablet showed live news footage. 7 massive ships had appeared in Earth orbit, each larger than any human structure ever built. Get me the Secretary General, Maya said, abandoning her coffee. As Earth's leading xenolinguist and first contact protocol developer, she had prepared for this moment her entire career, though she never truly believed it would come during her lifetime. Within hours, she found herself in an emergency United Nations session as world leaders argued about how to respond to the aliens' request for a meeting. They specifically asked for our help, the Secretary General emphasized. Not our surrender, not our resources, our help. Maya studied the translated message again. The aliens, calling themselves the United Species Alliance, claimed to be fighting a losing war against something called the Void Collective. They had noticed Earth when one of their enemy scout ships was destroyed near our planet. They think we have some special capability, Maya explained. Something they lack. That's absurd, Russia's representative scoffed. These beings have interstellar travel. What could we possibly offer them? Perhaps, Maya suggested, it's not what we have, but how we think. When the Alliance delegation landed at the UN headquarters, Maya led the human greeting party. Admiral Vex was impressive, tall with purple skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, 4 arms, and eyes that reflected starlight even indoors. Dr. Chen, he said in perfect English, thank you for agreeing to meet us. How did you learn our language so quickly? Maya asked. We've been monitoring your communications since we entered your system, Vex explained. Your species broadcasts constantly. It's unusual. The meeting that followed was unprecedented in human history. Admiral Vex explained the 42-year war against the Void Collective, crystalline entities that shared a hive mind and sought to assimilate all life into their perfect, ordered existence. The Alliance had superior technology, but couldn't match the Collective's perfect adaptability. Your species destroyed a collective scout ship, Vex said. We need to understand how. General Leila Sharma of the Indian Space Defense Force stepped forward. It was a joint operation. The scout appeared near our lunar colony, and we responded with what we had. She displayed footage of the encounter. The alien ship, nearly invisible to sensors, approached Earth's moon. Multiple nations coordinated an impromptu defense. Chinese electromagnetic pulse generators, American laser platforms, Russian kinetic weapons, and Indian drone swarms. We had no unified doctrine, General Sharma explained. Each nation responded according to their own protocols. Some attacked, some defended, some attempted communication. Admiral Vex leaned forward, his interest intensifying. You had no coordinated strategy. We barely had time to communicate with each other, Sharma admitted. Everyone just reacted. Fascinating, Vex murmured. In the face of a superior enemy, your species responded not with optimal coordination, but with diverse, independent actions. Maya saw the realization dawn in the alien admiral's eyes. That's what you need from us, isn't it? Not our technology or resources, but our chaos. For 42 years, Vex explained, we fought the Collective with perfect strategy and coordination, and for 42 years, they've adapted to everything we've done. But they couldn't adapt to us, Maya suggested, because we weren't following any pattern they could recognize. Precisely, Vex confirmed. Your species doesn't think like ours, or like the Collective. You're unpredictable, even to each other. General Sharma smiled slightly. Admiral, if unpredictability is what you need, humanity has that in abundance. 3 days later, a joint Earth Alliance command center had been established aboard the Eternal Vigilance. 200 humans, not just military personnel, but game theorists, jazz musicians, hockey coaches, and even a few professional gamblers, had volunteered to join what was being called Operation Wildcard. Admiral Vex watched with fascination as General Sharma and Maya Chen presented their proposal to the Alliance Council. The Void Collective defeats you because they understand how you think. Sharma explained. They predict your responses because you value order and optimality. We'll introduce something they can't predict: human chaos. You're suggesting we abandon proven military doctrine? Representative Exelith asked incredulously. Not abandon, Maya clarified. Supplement. Use your doctrine where it works and human unpredictability where it doesn't. Commander Lix, who had been working closely with the human tactical team, stepped forward. I've run simulations incorporating the human suggested approach. Success probability increases by 63%. Vex could feel the room's skepticism. Alliance species had evolved through order, cooperation, and optimization. The concept of intentional chaos was almost physically painful to them. We're out of alternatives, Vex reminded them. The collective will reach this sector within 72 hours. If we continue as we have been, we will lose, and Earth will be next. First speaker Zoltar's environmental suit hummed as the gaseous entity considered. Very well. For this engagement only, we will attempt the human approach. As the council dispersed, Commander Lix approached Vex privately. Admiral, you should see what the humans are doing to our battle simulations. In the tactical center, Vex found Maya Chen and a human named Jackson, a video game designer, of all things, reconfiguring the Alliance's combat simulators. What are you doing? Vex asked. Teaching your ships to dance, Jackson replied with a grin. On the simulator screen, Alliance vessels moved in patterns Vex had never considered, breaking formation, executing seemingly random maneuvers, sometimes even flying directly at enemy concentrations before veering away at the last moment. This is madness, Vex said softly. Exactly, Maya agreed. Madness that the collective won't be able to predict or counter. As Vex watched the simulation unfold, he saw Alliance ships surviving encounters that would have destroyed them under conventional doctrine. The simulated collective forces seemed confused, their responses becoming increasingly erratic as they failed to identify patterns in the Alliance movements. For the first time in decades, Vex allowed himself to feel genuine hope. Perhaps these strange, chaotic humans were exactly what the Alliance needed. As the Eternal Vigilance prepared to meet the incoming collective fleet, Admiral Vex made an unprecedented decision. He temporarily transferred command authority to General Sharma for the upcoming battle. You understand the collective better than I do, Sharma told him. I'll need your insights. And you understand chaos better than I do, Vex replied. Together, perhaps we can find a way to win. The Human Alliance Joint Command Center hummed with activity as the sensor officer announced. Collective fleet detected at the edge of the system. Estimated time to engagement: 6 hours. Vex and Sharma exchanged glances. The moment of truth was approaching. Would human unpredictability be enough to turn the tide of a war that had claimed billions of lives across 42 years? Only one way to find out. The collective fleet materialized at the edge of the system, over 2,000 vessels of crystalline perfection, each containing millions of interconnected minds functioning as one vast intelligence. They had conquered 17 galactic sectors in 42 years, adapting to and overcoming every defense strategy the Alliance had deployed. But they had never encountered humans before. All ships in position, Commander Lix reported on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance. General Sharma nodded, her expression calm despite the enormous responsibility that had been placed upon her. Begin Operation Wildcard. Across the Alliance fleet, human advisors relayed their instructions. Instead of forming the traditional defensive sphere that the Alliance had used for 4 decades, the ships scattered in seemingly random directions. They're breaking formation, Maya noted, watching the tactical display beside Admiral Vex. The collective won't have seen this before. The collective fleet paused. For 11 long seconds, an eternity in space combat, the crystalline ships remained motionless, as if confused by the Alliance's apparently chaotic deployment. They're trying to find the pattern, Vex explained. Their entire strategy relies on identifying and countering patterns. And we're not giving them any, Sharma said with satisfaction. The collective finally advanced, but hesitantly, splitting into smaller groups to pursue the scattered Alliance vessels, exactly as Jackson, the human game designer, had predicted. Phase 2, Sharma ordered. Across the Alliance fleet, communication officers initiated what the humans had dubbed Operation Static, flooding all frequencies with random data, musical fragments, mathematical nonsense, and contradictory tactical orders. On the collective ships, the crystalline entities struggled to process the information overload. Their hive mind, accustomed to perfect clarity and order, faced something it had never encountered: deliberate chaos. "Look at their movements," Commander Lick said with amazement. "They're becoming erratic." Indeed, the collective vessels had begun making small but critical mistakes, breaking their own perfect formations, hesitating between maneuvers, occasionally even interfering with each other's flight paths. The noise is disrupting their hive mind, Vex realized. They can't coordinate properly. Sharma nodded to Jackson, who activated the next phase of the human strategy. Released the wild cards. 50 small Alliance vessels, each piloted by a human alien team, launched from their carrier ships. Unlike the disciplined, formation-based attacks the Alliance normally employed, these ships darted across space in unpredictable patterns, striking at the collective vessels from unexpected angles. "What are they doing?" First speaker Zoltar demanded, having joined the bridge to witness the battle. "Those attack vectors are completely inefficient." "That's the point," Maya explained. "Efficiency is predictable. The collective expects efficient attacks. They don't know how to counter inefficient ones." On the tactical display, a human pilot named Rodriguez demonstrated this principle perfectly. Instead of taking the optimal approach to a collective destroyer, he flew his ship in a spiraling path, cutting power at seemingly random intervals, and struck from the one angle the collective hadn't bothered to defend, because no rational attacker would choose such an inefficient approach. The destroyer's shields collapsed under the unexpected assault. "It's working," Vex whispered, almost unable to believe his eyes. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human unpredictability, combined with Alliance technology, was creating openings in the collective defense that hadn't existed in 42 years of warfare. Yet the collective was still dangerous. As their initial confusion faded, they began adapting, not completely, but enough to start inflicting serious damage on the Alliance fleet. "They're learning," Commander Lix warned. "Casualties mounting on our eastern flank." Sharma nodded grimly. As expected, time for Phase 4, Operation Wildfire. This was the riskiest part of the human strategy. While the small attack craft continued their erratic assaults, the main Alliance fleet suddenly regrouped into a perfect, traditional formation, exactly the kind of predictable pattern the collective was designed to counter. "What are you doing?" Zoltar demanded. "You're giving them exactly what they expect." "We're giving them what they think they expect," Maya corrected. As the collective forces rushed to engage the seemingly vulnerable Alliance formation, Jackson activated the final component of their plan. Throughout the battle, specialized Alliance ships had been seeding the engagement zone with thousands of tiny devices developed by human and Alliance engineers working around the clock for the past 72 hours. "Activate the Fireflies," Sharma ordered. The devices came to life simultaneously, each emitting a signal that precisely mimicked a collective command node. Suddenly, the collective hive mind was bombarded with thousands of contradictory instructions, all appearing to come from legitimate sources within its own network. The effect was immediate and devastating. Collective ships began firing on each other, mistaking allies for enemies. Some vessels froze in place, unable to determine which commands to follow. Others executed partial maneuvers that left them vulnerable to Alliance attacks. "My God," Vex breathed. "You've turned their greatest strength into a weakness." The collective hive mind, designed for perfect coordination and adaptation, had never evolved defenses against this kind of internal disruption. It had never needed to, until it encountered humans. "All ships, advance," Sharma ordered. "Target their command nodes." The Alliance fleet surged forward, striking at the now vulnerable collective vessels with precision and power. For the first time in 42 years, the crystalline ships were falling faster than they could adapt. But the battle wasn't over. The largest collective vessel, a massive construct at the center of their fleet, remained largely unaffected by the confusion affecting its smaller counterparts. The prime node, Vex identified it. "If we can destroy that, the entire collective force in this sector will collapse." "Can we reach it?" Sharman asked. Commander Lix shook her head. "It's too well protected, even now. Our simulations show no viable attack path." Jackson, who had been quiet for some time, suddenly spoke up. "What about an impossible path?" All eyes turned to him as he manipulated the tactical display. "Look, if we send a ship through here, it would pass directly through the collective's heaviest defenses. No sane commander would attempt it." "Because it's suicide," Lix stated flatly. "Exactly," Jackson agreed. "That's why they won't expect it." Vex studied the proposed route. The ship would be destroyed before it got halfway to the target. "Not if every other ship provides covering fire, creating a corridor," Jackson argued. "It would only need to survive long enough to deliver a payload." Maya looked at Sharma, then Vex. "It could work. The collective defends against optimal attacks. This is the opposite of optimal." "Who would pilot such a mission?" Zoltar asked. "It would almost certainly be fatal." Admiral Vex straightened to his full height. "I will." The bridge fell silent. For the commander of the Alliance fleet to volunteer for what amounted to a suicide mission was unprecedented. "Admiral," Sharma began, but Vex raised a hand to silence her. "For 42 years, I have watched my people die while following my orders. If there is even a chance to end this war, I should be the one to take the risk." After a brief argument, the plan was approved. Vex transferred to a small, fast vessel equipped with the most powerful explosives the Alliance possessed. As he prepared to launch, Maya Chen's voice came over his comm. "Admiral, I've been thinking about why humans defeated that scout ship." "And?" Vex asked, running through his pre-flight sequence. "It wasn't just our unpredictability. It was hope." Vex paused. "Explain." "The collective's strength is certainty. They always know exactly what they're trying to achieve and how to achieve it. But humans, we hope for things even when they seem impossible. We try even when logic says we should fail." Vex considered this. His species were empaths. They understood emotions better than most. Yet somehow, they had forgotten about hope during their long war. "Thank you, Dr. Chen," he said finally. "I believe I understand." The attack commenced with a massive barrage from every Alliance ship, creating a momentary corridor through the collective defenses. Vex's ship launched into that corridor, accelerating to maximum speed. Collective fire converged on his vessel immediately. The shields collapsed within seconds, and hull breaches began registering across all decks. But Vex kept going, pushing the engines beyond their safety limits. 60 seconds to target, Commander Lix reported from the Eternal Vigilance. On the command bridge, humans and aliens alike held their breath as Vex's ship, now trailing debris and venting atmosphere, continued its headlong rush toward the prime node. The collective finally recognized the threat. Their defensive ships closed ranks around the prime node, creating an impenetrable wall of crystalline vessels and energy fields. "He's not going to make it," someone whispered. On his failing ship, Admiral Vex reached the same conclusion. The path to the prime node was completely blocked. There was no way through, no rational way, at least. Then he remembered Maya's words about hope and what he had learned from humans in the past few days. Sometimes, the correct move wasn't the rational one. Vex diverted all remaining power to the engines and aimed his ship not at the prime node itself, but at the largest defensive vessel protecting it. "What is he doing?" Zoltar demanded as they watched Vex's apparent course correction. Before anyone could answer, Vex's ship slammed into the collective defender at incredible speed. The impact shattered the crystalline vessel, creating a shower of debris that temporarily disrupted the defensive screen around the prime node. And through that disruption flew a small object, an escape pod that Vex had launched in the final seconds before impact, containing the explosives his ship had been carrying. The escape pod, too small to register as a significant threat to the collective sensors, struck the prime node directly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the prime node exploded in a blinding flash that temporarily overloaded the Eternal Vigilance's sensors. When the displays cleared, the collective fleet was in disarray. Without the prime node to coordinate them, the individual ships lost all cohesion. Some fled in random directions. Others simply went dormant, floating lifelessly in space. He did it, Sharma breathed. Admiral Vex actually did it. A search of the debris field found Vex's escape pod, heavily damaged but intact. The Admiral was injured but alive. He had gambled everything on a completely irrational plan and survived. In the days that followed, the Alliance pursued the fragmented collective forces across the sector, destroying or capturing them before they could reestablish contact with the greater collective. For the first time in 42 years, they had won a decisive victory. 1 month later, Admiral Vex stood before the Alliance Council. His injuries healed, but his perspective forever changed. The war is not over, he acknowledged. The collective still controls much of known space, but we have proven they can be defeated, and we know how to do it. First Speaker Zoltar's environmental suit hummed as the gaseous entity spoke. The human strategies have been effective, if disturbing. But can we truly adopt such chaotic methods across our entire military? We don't need to, Vex replied. What we need is balance, the precision and power of Alliance technology combined with the unpredictability and adaptability of human thinking. Maya Chen, now serving as Earth's first official representative to the Alliance, stepped forward. Humanity doesn't ask you to become like us. We ask you to work with us, combining our strengths. The Council voted unanimously to formally invite Earth to join the Alliance as a full member, the 38th species to do so, but perhaps the most consequential. Later, as Vex and Maya watched Earth rise over the lunar horizon from the Alliance's new Joint Command Center on the Moon, the Admiral shared a thought that had been troubling him. I've been studying human history, he said. Your species fights amongst itself constantly. You're divided by borders, ideologies, religions, yet when faced with an external threat, you united almost immediately. Maya smiled slightly. That's another human paradox, Admiral. We argue with each other endlessly, but threaten one of us, and you threaten us all. The collective will return, Vex warned. They'll adapt to our new strategies eventually, and we'll create newer ones, Maya replied confidently. That's the advantage of chaos over order, Admiral. Order can only perfect what already exists. Chaos can create what has never been imagined. Vex considered this, watching as Alliance and human ships maneuvered together in the space above the lunar colony. For 42 years, the Alliance had fought a losing war against an enemy that embodied perfect order and adaptation. Now, with the introduction of human unpredictability, the tide had finally turned. You know, he said finally, before we discovered your planet, I had begun to lose hope that we could ever defeat the collective. And now? Maya asked. Vex smiled, a genuine expression that reached his eyes for the first time in decades. Now I believe what you humans have always believed, that the future is not predetermined, that against all odds and all logic, we can change what seems inevitable. That's humanity's greatest gift to the universe, Admiral, Maya said softly. Not our technology or our strategies, but our stubborn refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible. As the sun rose over the lunar landscape, casting long shadows across the regolith, Vex realized that in finding these chaotic, unpredictable humans, The Alliance had gained more than just a military advantage. They had rediscovered something essential that had been lost during their long, desperate war: the power of hope against all odds. And with that realization came another: that perhaps the greatest weapon against the perfect order of the collective wasn't just human unpredictability, but the uniquely human belief that even when logic and probability say otherwise, there is always a chance to change the future. For a race of crystalline entities that existed in perfect, unchanging harmony, such a concept might prove to be the one thing they could never adapt to.